Let's improve the contact list we made earlier by combining some of the features we've learned about, which include columns, subsummary parts, tabs, and calculations. And this is where the real power of FileMaker lies, when you combine features to create something unique. What we're going to do is organize the contacts by the first letter of the last name. So if you remember, we'll take a look at our previous print list. It was simply just a list. We're going to organize them using our subsummary. So let's go into layout mode. We're going to go ahead and produce a new layout. We'll call it contact list. And we're going to go to blank layout, of course. So what we need here are several things. First of all, we need a little title here. So I'll move this down and get my text tool and type contact list. And we'll underline that. Move it over here into the upper left-hand corner. That looks pretty good. Tighten this up a little bit. I'm going to get rid of these little things right here, these little label. It just makes it easier to work on this. And then we're going to need a subsummary part. So I'm going to change this into a subsummary part. But before we do that, we need to organize by some field. And we want to organize by the first letter of the last name. We don't have anything that does that, so we need to create a calculation. So we're going to go into Manage Database. We're going to call this name last letter. We'll create that as a calculation field. Hit create. And the first thing I always do when I come in here is choose a text result. That way you don't accidentally leave it on number, because it doesn't matter how good your formula is. If you have the wrong result, you won't sort, you won't find properly, all those things. And this will create a big problem. So I always set that first because I know what the result's going to be. Now you also may be wondering, why did I choose a regular calculation field? Why not an auto enter calc? Well, there's one main difference between them, because they can really act the same. If we go ahead and set up an auto enter calc to replace the content so it's continually auto entering, it seems to work a lot like this calculation field. The difference is an auto enter calc can be modified. And I don't really want this field to be modified ever. There's no reason for it. It's going to be based on the last name field, and that will trigger this to update. There's no reason why I need to go into this last letter field and change it myself. So that's why I've chosen this approach. So let's go in here and let's find the correct function. There's one that will work great for us. It's called left. So we'll type it in. There's left. And you see it says look at this text parameter and then grab a certain number of characters starting from the left. Just go across and grab those. So I'm going to type this in. I prefer to do that rather than double clicking. Type in left, open paren. The field we want to get out of is name last. So we'll double click on that. Semicolon, space. Now the space isn't necessary, but it makes it easier to read. And then I'll type a 1 because that's how many characters we want to get. Starting from the left, grab this many characters. I only want 1 because I want to organize by the first letter. And that's it. Very simple formula, but very powerful in what it can do when you combine it with a subsummary. So let's click OK. Double click on this, change this to a subsummary when sorted by. Go down to name last letter. There we go. Now it's going to ask us, do we want to print above or below? This refers to the body part. We're going to want it above in this case. We'll tighten this up a little bit. And what we want in here is that field that we just created, that name last letter. So we'll come in here, insert a merge field, go into name last letter, and let's make that bigger. Let's go to, let's say, 18 points. Sounds good. Move it right up here, right up and as tight as I can put it in there. I don't want it to be inside this header, because then it'll be fully in there. Even if it's 1 pixel in there, it'll go into the header. I want to make my subsummary tight so I can put as many values on one page as possible. I want a short contact list is what we want. Then I'll tighten that up. There we go. Now what we need also is to have a body part in here. So we're going to go ahead and change this to a body. And in there we're going to enter our first name and last name and phone number. So we'll come down here, insert our merge field. We'll go name last, comma, space, insert another merge field. That'll be name first. And then we're going to hit the tab character. We'll explain why we're doing this later, but for right now, just enter that tab character in there, and then insert your phone field. There we go. Make this quite a bit smaller because we need a lot of stuff on there. We'll go to 12 point, take the underlining off. This doesn't need to be quite that big or quite this long. Tighten that up, put it right in there, a little indented, but as close to the top as we can do it. Tighten this up. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Let's add in a footer though. Drag in our part. Choose the footer. Because what we want is the date. We want to insert our date symbol and put the date that we printed this on so you know which version of the contact list you have. So we'll put printed, colon, and then the date. Make that a little bit bigger. Maybe put it over here on the right justification. Put it at the edge of the paper. There you go. That works great. And we'll probably tighten that up a little bit. Make it small. This should probably be the smallest thing. You don't really need to look at that very much. So we can tighten this up like that. Make it smaller. That way we have as much room on the page as possible. So we're not quite done with this. We haven't done anything with this tab yet, but I want to see what it looks like right now. Because if we add all the things, you won't necessarily know what each part does. I want you to understand what the subsummary does and what the calculation does and all that stuff. And then we can add more parts in here to really get the finished product. So let's go to preview mode. Now you don't have to go to preview mode, but eventually will because we're going to eventually use columns. So we're going to need preview mode because browse mode won't show them very well. So let's go ahead in here and let's sort it properly. And what we need to do is clear out the state and add the name last letter. Put that up at the top, and we need name last and name first. We'll keep those in there. Well, you don't need them, but within each category it'd be nice to have them organized properly. So we'll sort this, and now you can see everything's sorted by the first letter of the last name. And it's really great. There's some things we definitely still need to do, but we're going to come back in the next section and complete this contact list.